Good afternoon, lovely people. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a bit. It has been a while, but I am so happy to be with you, lovely people, today. I am so happy to be with you today. It has been a while, but I'm extremely happy today because I am going to be hosting one of my favorite people who is a leading lady, and I'm going to be adding her right now because I want her to be so much a part of this entire stream. Just hold on for me, lovelies. Let me add my guest. While we wait for her to join us, how are you lovely people doing? Hello!
Hi.
Hey girl!
What's
How are you
up?
doing?
I'm good. It's been a while. It really has.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Girl, I'm super duper excited today.
Me
Words can't
too.
even express how excited I am,
Aw.
not just to be here with you, but also for us to be able to share with our lovely women today. I am extremely, extremely happy that
Yeah.
you could join me today. And I also want to say thank you so very much because I know that we're at two different parts of the world, so our time is completely
Two
different.
different.
I am
Yeah.
seeing afternoon and you are seeing what?
Night.
Night?
Night.
Night.
Yes, it's after
You're like
9.
what? 6 hours ahead of us,
Yeah.
right? About that?
Yeah.
Oh
Six
my
hours.
goodness. Girl, I so appreciate you being a part of
Love
this
you.
program today. I'm absolutely amazing. Mwah!
Mwah.
Super duper exciting. But without further ado, let me just say to the viewers today who are watching live, and for those who will be watching us on the rebound, let me say good afternoon to you all, and thank you so very much for joining us. Today, I am so excited to host my beautiful leading lady, Julene Henry, who is such an amazing individual. She's a beautiful woman of God, and she's a woman of purpose. She is a woman who leads by absolute example. And so today, I would like for you, my host Julene Henry, to just introduce to my viewers today, to our viewers today, who is Julene Henry. Tell them a little about who you are.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. First of all, let me say thank you so much, Aura, for having me. The pleasure is absolutely mine. Wow. Who is Julene? First of all,
Mhm.
Julene is a child of God. I am nothing without God. If you see me, it's
Mhm.
only because of the grace of God. I'm a dental hygienist, former clinical instructor. I sing, I dance, I speak, I do a whole lot of things. But all in all, I'm a wife, a mom to a beautiful little 2-year-old boy. Oh my gosh, he has my heart.
It's
And
a
yeah,
joy.
I love the Lord with all my heart. I really do. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. What you see is what you get. Yeah, that's
Thank
it.
Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned that you are a dental hygienist. But for those who are watching today and may be familiar with the term but may not have a, a comprehensive idea of who a dental hygienist is or what a dental hygienist does, could you just give us a little highlight on that? You yourself, Julene?
Okay, absolutely. So a dental hygienist, right? I like to call it the fun side of dentistry. First of all, we are oral health professionals. We had to go to school to train for this. We had to study as well. And we're governed by a regulatory body. So whatever country we're in, whether it be England, wherever you are in the world, you're governed by a regulatory body. So you must be licensed, right? Now, to get down to the details of what we do, we are the people you come to when you need your teeth to be cleaned. But that's not just it. We had to study head and neck examination and all of that. So when you do come to us, we will do cancer screening, oral cancer screening. We look in the
Wow.
mouth, we check the head and neck region to see if, there are any lumps or bumps or moles that look, questionable. We're also educators. So when you come into our office, we'll tell you about, the things you need to do in order to have good oral hygiene. We're advocates. We wear so many hats as dental hygienists, but in a nutshell, we're the people you come to see when you need to get your teeth cleaned, when you need to get when you need treatment for your, if you have gum disease. We're also the people you come to see, for a consult as well, just to see the health of your mouth. We treat periodontal disease, gum disease, and yeah. So, but in a nutshell, we're more so into prevention. So we help to prevent oral diseases of the mouth, specifically periodontal disease. So I hope you kind of get an idea of what we do, right?
Trust me, you have shed a whole lot of light on who a dental hygienist is. For me, I mean, I kind of had an idea, but you made it more understanding for me personally on what it is that you do or the dental hygienists do. And the fact that you mentioned more than just cleaning the teeth, you guys actually check the neck. I didn't even know that you guys did that kind of a thing for any kind of lumps and stuff like that. So I right there actually learned something. So thank you so much for sharing that. And for those who are just joining us, I want to say thank you for joining us today. With that said, are there any oral practices an expectant mother should pay extra care to?
Absolutely. So first of all, if you're an expectant mom, pregnant woman, you have to ensure that you're brushing your teeth twice per day, even if you're not a pregnant woman. You understand? Everybody needs to brush their teeth at least twice per day. You also need to floss at least once per day, because we want to get rid of the food and bacteria that's in between the teeth. Because with pregnant women, the hormones and all of that, sometimes the gums can get a little bit red and puffy. And so we want to keep the area really clean. Another thing, you find that most pregnant women, they go through morning sickness, vomiting, all sorts. It's just a really uncomfortable time. But we like to advise our pregnant mothers that, first of all, you don't want to brush right after you've thrown up, because that's acid that's now being introduced to the mouth, right? And so it compromises the strength of the teeth. So with you now going and brushing and acid is, in the oral region, you're going to find that, your teeth can easily be eroded because the strength of the tooth is not so good at that time when there's acid in the mouth. Another thing that we try to encourage our pregnant moms to do, if you do throw up, rinse with a little water, or you can add some, like at least one teaspoon, of baking soda, right? Swish around in the mouth and you should be good. But don't brush until like probably an hour after, because there's no acid introduced, into the mouth. Apart from that, you want to ensure that you're eating right. You do not want to get cavities while you're pregnant. You don't, preferably we like to do those kind of treatments or appointments after the baby's born. And if you have any questions, of course, call up your dentist, go to the dentist, an oral health professional or a dental hygienist, call up your dental hygienist. We'll do some checks just to make sure you're A-okay. One of the things I want to plug in here is that there is a relationship or a link scientifically between periodontal disease and preterm babies or premature babies, right? Now, people can have premature babies for several reasons, but there is a link with you having poor oral health. And so a lot of people feel as though the mouth is separated from the body, but it's actually the window to the body, right? So as a pregnant mom, you have to ensure that all of you is right. So you're taking your vitamins, you're taking everything, also take care of your mouth, right? So call up your dentist, call up your dental hygienist, and, get them checking in on what's going on in your mouth. Yeah.
You have just informed a lot of expectant moms, I'm sure. And even though I am already a mom of two beautiful girls, I wish I knew some of what you just said. I mean, I personally did not experience morning sickness really, like a lot of pregnant women may have. But I still do wish that some of these things I knew so that I could better care for myself or my oral hygiene. I mean, I do care for my oral hygiene or for my gums and my teeth, but it's so it adds more when we're informed, because when we're not so informed on several different things, or let me just put it this way, when we are informed, we're better able to make better decisions. We're better able to apply some wisdom to, the things that we need to do to improve our health, because that is a part of our health, and to improve our well-being. And because this month, the month of May, is a month that is filled with so many different things that we'll be celebrating, and here in Jamaica in particular, we have Mother's Day coming up very soon. I think it's next week, Sunday.
Yes, it is.
So happy Mother's Day to you in advance. And I know you would have celebrated Mother's Day
In
also
March.
in England.
Yeah.
So in March, right? So happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful ladies from London,
Happy Mother's
England,
Day.
who may be watching. And also some mothers who are maybe also looking to experience, the blessing of having a child. I hope that you'll find this lovely information, or this exclusive and very comprehensive information that this leading lady, Julene Henry, just shared. It will be of much value to you when you come across this video. If you're not on this stream live, I hope that you will. All right. And also in the month of May, we are celebrating it's Mental Health Month, right?
It is.
And yes, it is. If I remember well, it is Mental Health Month. And there's so many different contributory factors that can affect one's mental health. And because this podcast is primarily focusing, or the aim is to reach primarily women of worth. That woman of worth is you, that woman of worth is me, and for all the leading ladies who will be watching and who are watching this live broadcast. And so I just want to ask a few questions that surrounds mental health, and in particular, how society can impact or influence an individual, which in one way or another may have an impact on an individual's mental health if an individual allows society to dictate or to decide for them who they should be and what life should be like for them. In addition to their emotional stability, which are one and the same, right? And I remember we had a conversation the other day, and you briefly mentioned something about emotional instability. And so I think, or I've come across a lot of women who they are not emotionally aware, they are not as emotionally intelligent as maybe they should. And so I think when we share the information that we have, or our own experiences, challenges, or struggles, it helps to individuals to recognize that they're not alone in some of the situations, and that there are some of us who would have walked through some of these things, but because we're not walking in value and victory, we're able to shed light, we're able to help these women say how to, because I think that's one of the biggest gaps, or one of the things that's missing the most. Because sometimes you'll hear a story shared, and you'll hear of the struggles persons have gone through and where they at. But hardly for me, I find that the gap in between is bridged, whereby, it's not been often shared of how do we get there? How can I do this? How can I improve myself? How can I make myself a better individual? So with that said, I want to ask you this question. Are you a woman easily influenced by society? If yes, why? And if no, how is that different for you?
That's an interesting question. Am I easily influenced by society? Well, first of all, I'm not an alien, so I do live in the world. And we all have influences around us. We see it in social media, we see it on mainstream media, we see it in the streets, in our workplaces, in the church, whatever circle we're in, we will be influenced. And of course, you have good and bad influence. But for me, as I said in my introduction, when you asked me to introduce myself, I'm a child of God. So with that said, every influence has to go through a filter. And that filter for me is the word of God. So if it is that something is deemed positive to society, it may not necessarily be what the Lord wants me to take on. You understand? So everything has to be filtered through the word for me. So am I a person that's easily influenced by society? I'd say I take what I should, once it goes through the filter of Christ, of Jesus Christ, by the way, let me say that, not just God, but Jesus Christ. Once it goes through that filter, the Word of God, the Bible, then, you know, of course, it will have an influence on me. But yeah, there are negative influences out there, and we have to be so careful that we
Yeah.
guard our minds and our hearts. You know, oftentimes, especially in the social media space, there's a lot of comparison. You know, everybody's watching what everybody else is doing, and we have to understand that we're running our own race. You know, don't look at somebody else's chapter 20 and you're chapter 2 and say, oh my God, why this can't happen for me? God, why you understand? We have to learn to
Yes.
pace ourselves. We have to learn to pace
Yes.
ourselves. You know, and this is something that I've often said to myself. I can't allow society to put a timeline on me when God is the one writing the story. You understand? Like, how
Girl,
dare I?
I understand you
How
quite well.
dare I say, oh
Yes.
my God, by the age of 30, I need to do this. By the age of this, I need to da da da.
Yes.
Then God is like, I'm sorry, do you have the pen? You understand?
Yes.
God is like, I'm sorry, excuse you. You understand? So we have to get to that place where we just repose, just relax and trust God that He knows exactly what He's doing, and
Yes.
try not to let the external, you know, influences get to us too much, because society can really put a lot of pressure on you, especially as women, especially as Black women, especially as women in the church. There's a lot of pressure that can really come on you, but you have to understand who you are and stand flat-footed in that. You know, so the influence will come, but allow that
Yes.
influence to go through the filter of God. So whatever that filter looks like, it has to be the Word of God, one, and God's will for your life. What is He saying about you? You understand? Did He tell you to go write a book? Did He tell you to do this? Da 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 da. Don't look at what the other person is saying. Don't look at what the other person is doing. You can applaud, you can appreciate, you can glean from them. But
Yes.
what is God saying about
Absolutely.
you? Right. So I hope I answered your question properly.
You more than answered it. And in fact, you actually went right into a few of the other questions that I want to ask.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Regarding the effect of society and the emotional instability that women faces. And you mentioned something about, you know, being 30, being women in the church or being Black women. And I find that as women too, and single women, let me just drop this one in here too, because sometimes when we're single, or if we're single and we're over 30 and or in ministry, there seems to be a lot more pressure.
Yeah.
Like, when are you going to get married? Why you don't have any kids yet? And sometimes even those who are close to us sometimes may even think or say or believe that, you know, it's never going to happen. Like, there's a thing where they talk about the biological clock. Oh yeah, you reach 30 or 35 and have no kids yet. That means nothing ever going for you again, and all that kind of foolishness. I personally have experienced that. And I experienced that from a previous relationship years ago. And it was so odd because this individual was older than I am, right? And for them to say to me, for that person to say to me that my biological clock is ticking and time is running out on me, I thought that was quite funny because he was older. But
Yeah.
I thank God that today I am a living testimony.
Amen.
And I am walking into the manifestations and believing what you're saying, that it's God who writes our story. He's the one who predicts, predestines, and preordains our future, what our lives are supposed to be like, and especially as women who are in the church, right? And you also made mention of something, that if we're not strong enough to stand firm, we can allow some of these things that society has spoken to determine what our life is going to be. Because with the question that I asked initially about society's influence, how does it affect you and if it does influence you? And I like what you said, that we're all influenced by what we see around us. We are influenced in different areas, at school, at work, and so on and so forth. But when we do know who we are and whose we are, then we need not to have a fight. We need not to try to compete with each other even. And we ought to just celebrate and be happy for what God is also doing in somebody else's life. And might I add right here too, that sometimes too, we may allow it because where some like myself, I am a late bloomer, if I may say so, because what a lot of women maybe would have experienced or accomplished at the age of 30 or 35, I did not fully, experience some of those things. I started experiencing a lot of those things after the age of 35, and I am still grateful. Of course, before that, I used to question myself. I used to be a bit angry and wondered, what is happening to me? Why am I not experiencing some of these things? But as time goes by, and as I sat with God, and more so the past 6 years seeking after purpose, I got to sit with myself firstly to understand who I am. And when I understood who I am, and I'm not even just saying who I was, because I am, just as my father is the I am because I know who I am now. So therefore, I need not compete with other women. I need not look down at my, situation or where I am at. I now can appreciate where I was in order to now be able to stand victoriously in where I am at presently and where I will be going.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
Also,
glad
when
you
you,
mentioned, sorry to interject
no, it's
there.
okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead, because we're having a discussion. Go ahead.
I love how you said, you sat with God. That's one of the things too with the whole influence thing. Um, we have to get to the place where we live a life of gratitude. So it may not be, you may not have the whole shebang right now or shebang in your eyes, but it's the little things, like, God, I thank you that, you provided a job for me. God, I thank you that,
Yeah,
I have the activity of my limbs. When I tell you, when you live in that place of gratitude, and I don't want to jump ahead of, your interview, but, I've been at the place where everything was taken from me, my literal life. You see, when you're reduced to that, when you're reduced to absolutely nothing, it's almost like your brain is like reset. And the little things you zoom in on and you say, oh God, thank you for that. Thank you for that. So you're not even busy looking at who has what and who doesn't have this and da. You're so grateful for what you do have. You understand? And we have
yeah,
to get to that place where we live a life of gratitude, and that I believe will also, influence how we handle influence.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. You mentioned it's important for women to know who they are earlier,
Mhm.
which leads to my next question. How important is it for us as women to know who we are? For example, knowing our value and worth and to pursue our best self. How important is that for us as women to know and to understand?
It's absolutely important. I can't stress it enough. First of all, you won't really know truly who you are unless you're connected with your creator. So if you look at any product that's made, a fridge, a stove, whatever it is, um, you won't understand the full potential of the product unless you read the manual, unless you download information from the manufacturer. And so, for us here living life as women, we have to first connect with our creator. That I believe that's really where we will find our best selves because he's the one that made us. He knows our ins and outs. He knows the kinks. He knows everything about us. And so when we connect with our creator, then we'll know who we are. Um, Another thing that I just wanted to plug in here, we also have to learn to spend time with ourselves. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that, and I don't mean in a crazy way like you're a loner, absolutely not. But
Oh
there's a
no.
balance to the thing. A lot of women, young women especially in their prime age, they want to connect with a spouse. They want to have a husband, XYZ, but then how is it that you're gonna expect someone else to know how to treat you when you don't even know how you want to be treated? You understand? So you have to spend time with yourself. And it's so funny. Before I got married, I tell people this all the time. Before the age of self-care and all these things were on social media, I was that girl going to the restaurant by myself. hmm Dress up, put on my clothes, and I'm looking real good and I'm going to the restaurant and I'm buying myself a meal. And I'm not just talking about the main course. I'm getting the appetizer, the main course, and the dessert.
Wow.
Because,
You're teaching some of these ladies
no,
what to do. Oh
that's
my
the thing.
God.
They don't necessarily have to do that because self-care for them might look different.
Can
I'm
be
a
right.
foodie, so
Right.
I'm going to go to
Absolutely.
the restaurant. You
Absolutely.
understand? But
Absolutely.
I say that because, and sometimes even when I go to the restaurant, like the waiter might say, "Oh, table for two." I'm like, "You see somebody else here? It's just me alone." You understand? It's just me alone. Because I
Wow.
know it's not the norm. I know
The
people don't just do that.
norm,
But
right.
I did
Right.
that
Correct.
because I wanted to ensure I know how I want to be treated. So
Right.
when you come along now as another person, I know exactly what I like. So then when, you come with your thing, it needs to be what I like. You understand? And so, yeah, spend time with yourself, and self-care might look different for other people. It could be journaling. It could be, you understand?
Yes.
When you do that, you kind of block out the external influences, so to speak, and you really zoom in, I should say, on yourself and your likes, your dislikes, and so forth. And as it relates to identity, again, the more you spend time in the Word, you get to know who you are. The Word is like a mirror. It shows you yourself, and
Yes.
sometimes when you look in that mirror, you see some stuff that you actually don't like, and you have to go before God and really just ask him to strip you of those things so that you can become that better version of yourself. Oftentimes, people in society, they might think this better version of yourself is the lavish, successful life and all that. But no, what's the condition of your heart? That, for
I
me, is
like that.
what I define as your best self. What is it that you're contemplating in the deep recesses of your heart, the hidden parts of your heart? What is it? Is it ugly? You understand? And we're all a work in progress. So daily
Yes.
go before God, and just really ask him to strip you of things that are just not like him, and that's how you become the best version of yourself. I believe that's how I view it, at least. Yeah.
So there is a question here for us.
Oh.
And before I answer that question, I want to just add something to what you said about spending time with yourself. Months ago, I shared on that. I don't remember what the title of the stream was, but I shared on that where God caused me about just before I got married to sit with myself, to sit with him so I could understand again who am I. Because like I made mention earlier, I am a late bloomer. There are some things I did not understand at a certain age and stage as some persons would have. No, the norm, I guess, maybe some person may be saying, oh, at the age of 30, an individual, how is it that an individual, how is it that a woman doesn't know who she is? How is it that she doesn't understand why she's here, what she's about? Well, for me personally, I think that could be for several different reasons. It could be because of the resources that one has available. It could be because of what was modeled before you are or that individual in their homes, in their community and society at large, right? It could also mean that you were probably a young mom like I am. For those who are watching, for those who will come across the rebroadcast, it could be that you were a young mom like myself. No, I was a young mom. Therefore, my focus was just to take care of my little girl at the time, right? So I had no time to be thinking about who am I. And let me just say this right here for those parents who are watching. Of course, I'm not entertaining nor am I condoning teenage pregnancy. Absolutely not. But what I'm stating here is that even though a child may become a teenage mom, it does not mean that's the end of the world or life for her. She still has an opportunity to become her best self, her the best version of who God has created to her to be. And like you just made mention, what is the condition of our hearts? Because sometimes there's so many different things that our hearts are knotted with that we're not able to even think clearly and understand our very own lives clearly. So I'm happy that you touched on that. And also during that period, the Lord made me to understand that there is a difference between loneliness and being alone, right? And
Amen.
a lot of women, even women who are Christians, I know who does not like to be alone. And what happens when we tell ourselves this? We find ourselves, we put ourselves into certain predicaments whereby we settle for less than we deserve. We find ourselves in some relationships that God did not preordain. Relationships we made covenant with these individuals that God did not, you know, commit for us. He did not say this is the individual that you're supposed to be with. And because of that, we end up settling for less than we deserve and cheat ourselves. And then sometimes we can have such an impact that we no longer understand our worth or our value. Now, of course, this podcast, and like I always mention, it's not prescriptive what we're sharing here on this live stream, but there's absolutely something that can be applicable to every individual's life. And with that said, I'm going to answer the question that Devora asked. Hey,
Hi,
sweetie, I love
Deborah.
you. Where she asked the question, can other people teach you things about yourself, though? So I want you first to share your thoughts on that question, and then I will give my thoughts. So go right at it.
Okay. I'd more say you can learn things about yourself from other people, because sometimes there might be behaviors that you have or habits that you have which you can't see. And, a person who loves you and cares about you will bring that up to you. Most times it's your spouse, especially for you married people. Your spouse is able to point certain things out that you were living with like your whole life and didn't even
Yes,
see it. So I'd more phrase it learn rather than teach. So you actually learn stuff from people sometimes. So it is possible. But I think that's probably a spin-off from what I said about spending time with yourself and knowing, that has to do, with your self-worth and all of that. You
yes,
want to know how you want to be treated. But
yes.
absolutely, yes, you can learn things from other people about yourself. Yep.
And I agree with that. You can. And you made mention of something about other person there like a mirror. Funny you said that because in one of the courses that I did last semester, there is what is called the looking glass. If I remember the terminology correctly, as well as there's also something that's called the I and the me. Now, you said it perfectly well. You're like my mirror. So therefore, there are things sometimes that individuals may point out to us, and because of course we're human beings, we all have biases. So sometimes the thing someone is pointing out to us, it may be true, but because of our own biases, we become blindsided by it, and we fail to maybe not accept what we fail to receive or try to understand what the
Sometimes
individual
our
is trying to say.
ego
And
is in the way
there
too.
you
Yes.
go. There you go. And like you made mention, it's oftentimes people who do care about us, they're not saying things to harm us. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
But I like to say to individuals that uh, when someone says something, and especially if we often hear it, maybe one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine persons,
Yeah.
whatever the number may be, you hear them saying something similar or something pretty much the same, it means that it's time for you to take step back, do some introspection rather, and evaluate what was being said rather than allowing the ego to override and overtake the
Absolutely.
whole matter, right? Because when we take a stop and take a check and we analyze the whole in situation, it will allow us to be better able to see some of the things that we were blindsided by so that we can now develop or work on ourselves, that thing that someone may be pointing out to us, and not allow offense to kill and rob, what God has in store, because that's another story in and of itself. Offense can
Oh
kill
yeah.
what God has in store for us, because someone may point out something and we're not humble enough to receive graciously the corrections to at times. As well as sometimes there are individuals, the I and the me now, it's been taught, I think it was in sociology, where there are expectations. We all have expectations. You have an expectation of course, of yourself. Your husband may have an expectation of you. Likewise, you may have an expectation of him, and so on and so forth. So, uh, Others or society may have an expectation of who me supposed to be me, but then the I says, who am I? So after we're being taught, after we have learned from the primary groups, be it our parents, families, moving on to the secondary groups, school, church, so on and so forth, we learn from all those different settings and there are different expectations of us. But then again, it goes back to this when we spend time with God to get to know who we are, other than what society and individuals expect of us, what is it that we expect of ourselves? And when we understand what it is that we expect of ourselves, then like what you said earlier too, we will not settle for less than we deserve. We'll know what our value or our worth is. We will know what it is that we want, what it is that we like. And I find too that a lot of women sometimes, as mature as some of us may be in age, we don't really know what is it that we want. We don't know who we are. We don't know what it is that we like and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that this is really helping someone today. And I again want to thank all of you for joining us live. And for those who will be watching on the rebound, I want to just let you know that we're having a conversation where we're talking about women leading ladies, women who are single, women who are in ministry, women who are expectant mothers, women who are maybe struggling, having challenges to understanding who they are, to understand why they should pursue their best selves. And so we're here today having this discussion to shed some light, share some information to educate and inspire, hoping that it will be of value and worth to you and that it will cause your life to be transformed.
Indeed.
With that said, I want to jump right into the ministry. For those not familiar with the term partnership license, I hope I pronounced it correctly. How would you define that for those of us who may not be so familiar with that term? How different is it there in London as opposed to out here in Jamaica?
Oh, okay. So pretty much my role as a partnership liaison. So it's a women's ministry and their partners, be it people who partner business-wise, financially, XYZ with the ministry. I'm that, what you'd say, middleman between, the ministry and the partners. So I, send out emails, we communicate and so forth. Everything having to do with the partners that, so into that ministry. So that's what I do. That's pretty much my role, really. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Were there any struggles or challenges you faced while waiting as a single woman in ministry? If yes, how did you overcome them? If no, what did that look like for you in ministry while you were waiting as a single woman?
Were there any struggles? Okay, so for the church community, I'd say, because, I'm a church baby, grew up in church and so forth. When you get to a certain age, people start questioning what's going on kind of thing, so I did get that. I was a part of several, friends groups, girls, we still talk, females, and usually everybody else getting married and I was, just lagging behind. And each time a wedding would pop up, the person, some other people, especially persons, church persons, they would say, "Oh, you're next," and you're just like, "Oh, the pressure is getting worse." But I'm so happy. I was so wired to the point where I understood that I needed to have that peace about a partner, my lifelong partner, because I'm gonna be the one to live with this person. So I can't then allow for, the pressure around me or the struggle around me, to influence my decisions or my relationships. I really had to just zone into God and, allow him to give me the peace when it came on to choosing a partner. Apart from that, I was really busy a lot in church. So, from rehearsal to rehearsal and this ministry to that ministry, and it was just a lot. So sometimes you don't even get time to like date and, like enjoy yourself. And, looking back, that's something I'd say to a younger Julene. Yeah. Enjoy yourself a little bit more, balance the thing. Ministry is awesome. It's great. We also want to have that, strike that balance with your social life. So yeah, but in terms of struggles, I'd say that the main struggle, or was it even a struggle? That's a good question. Yeah, it was the pressure that came with it. But I had that resolve in my heart that if I didn't have peace about this person, who I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with, then I would not have gone ahead with it. So yeah, you have to have that in the back of your head, or the forefront of your mind, I should say, when it comes on to choosing a partner. Yeah.
Great. I love that because here again, we're hearing how important it is to be solid
Yeah.
because, uh, and we spoke again earlier on the different influences in society. It's not just the wider society, but there are influences in the churches, there are influences
Absolutely.
at schools, there are
Absolutely.
different areas where there are influences. And because of your the strong, the strength that you have, of course, by the grace of God, to be able to stand firm and not fall prey to,
Yeah.
as well as I would you then say that, because you made mention that you were very busy, although you're also saying it's good to find a balance, would you say that being busy for a single woman in ministry or single woman in ministry, would you suggest that being active in different ministerial areas, would you say that it's an effective tool then to kind of keep a single woman in ministry a little,
Well,
no, so she doesn't fall too much of a prey to the temptations? Just
oh,
saying.
that's what you mean. Oh,
Yes.
that's a good point. I mean, to be honest, you really, when it comes on to keeping yourself pure, let me see if that's what you're getting at, right? Keeping yourself pure.
Yes.
It really is gonna spin out of your place with God, your relationship with God. That's really where it's gonna filter from. So, yes, we're humans, but I think the closer you get to, the Lord and build that intimate relationship with Him, you'll find yourself at that place like, okay, if you're about to do something, you're immediately convicted. You understand? So I'd say that's probably the first part you want to look at. But then also in a practical way, you're busy, just doing all sorts of things in ministry. Yeah, I guess it could probably help you to stay on the straight and narrow, but I really believe that it should be birthed out of your relationship and your love for the Lord. You love Him, you keep keep His commandments. That's what the Bible says, right? So yeah, I think it's better to look at it from that side as opposed to, just being busy.
I
So
like
you
that.
miss,
I like that
yeah,
perspective that you just shared.
yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Without further ado, I want to say to all the children out there, whether you're an adult or you're an adult, happy Child's Day to you all. And for those new moms, happy Child's Month to your beautiful child. We're also celebrating Child's Month here in May, here in Jamaica. I'm not sure if you guys, do you celebrate Child's Month there in England
A
too?
very good question. I don't know.
Well, you're a
Probably.
barnyardie, so you're a
Yes.
barnyardie, so happy Child's Month to all the children. Happy
Yeah.
Child's Month to your little boy, Cairo.
Thank
And without further ado, as I said earlier, I want to talk about miracles and motherhood,
you.
right? So for the mothers who may be watching or the expectant mothers who may be having challenges, you know, to believe that God can turn things around for them, who may be experiencing some difficulties being pregnant or something of that nature, and may just feel like they're feeling very low spirited, or they may feel like, oh my God, is there any hope? Will anything good come out of this? Will things, will it be something better than what I'm seeing here? Uh, how would you define miracle? Let me just ask you, because I said miracles and motherhood is the name of this segment or the title of this segment. So
Okay.
how would you define miracle?
How would I define a miracle? I'd say I view a miracle as God's signature. It's His fingerprint. when you look at the thing, you know that only God could do it. A miracle is that it's a scenario where God's glory and his power and his authority is displayed, and as you look at it, you just know, yep, I see the finger of God on this. It could not be anything else. There's no other explanation but a miracle. God did this. That's how I view a miracle. Yeah. Yeah. God's signature.
You are a living testimony, I know, of not just one miracle, but multiple miracles.
Amen.
So with you defining what miracle is for you, I would love for you to share with us or tell us about your love story and about becoming a mother. What about those scenarios or those beautiful experiences you would say are or
Oh wow. Do you have all night? I'm kidding.
I should ask you if you have all night. It's already night where you're at.
But let me start with my love story.
Hold on. For all the single ladies who are on live and those who will be coming across a rebound, this one's for you. This one will definitely bring you hope. This one will definitely inspire you, and this one will definitely bless your heart to know and believe that there's a God who can turn things around. Go ahead, girl.
Amen. Amen. I particularly like when my husband shares the story, but I'll try my best.
Maybe we can have him on another segment.
That's fine. Our love story in and of itself has the Lord's signature and his fingerprint all over it. It's a miracle. I remember in 2018, I had ended a previous relationship, and it was to the point where literally the Holy Spirit was in my ear saying, end it now. And I said, all right, God, because sometimes you want to just do your own thing, but I was obedient. I was obedient, and he told me to go on 3 days fasting, and I did that, not knowing what was gonna come after that. I was more so fasting and seeking his direction. I said, God, if there's anything I've gotten wrong in my life, it's relationships. And I had reached a place where I just said, God, I surrender to you. Like, whatever you want to do, just do. I just want to be in your will right now. So if your will for me looks like just doing ministry, just, and let me not even say just, if your will for me looks like doing ministry, which I gladly enjoyed, fine. But me doing this relationship thing on my own, I'm over it. And I had reached that place of surrender. And I kid you not, I believe it was a day after the 3 days of fasting was finished. A friend of mine invited me to a church, went to the church. Nobody knew I was on this fast, by the way. Not even my mom knew. No, she probably had an idea, but she didn't know why I was fasting. And I went to the church, and the minister called me up, and she was just speaking into my life about other stuff, about purpose and ministry and all of that. And then she said, she started praying about, relationship, and when the right person comes, you're gonna know, and all of these things. And I'm saying to myself, when I got up off the floor, of course, I said to myself, oh God, easy, you tell this woman my business, but that's fine, because I'm a private person when it comes on to relationships, and I tell you, after that, I believe it was within the same week, a friend of mine from the church I used to go to, she called me and she said, I kind of want to introduce you to my cousin. And I'm just like, hello, excuse, I don't do that. So I was like, back up, it was a bit much for me. I don't really do that sort of thing. I don't like the setup kind of thing. But
girl, I completely understand. No judgment. I completely understand. Before you go any further, I just want to say to all the males who are joining us today, I thank you. We thank you so much for joining in with us. We thank you for seeing it necessary. Thank you for seeing it very important to join